Luke, can you tell me what got you interested in applying to the grad program at ANZ?
So I think the thing that attracted me the most for the ANZ Grad Program was my view of ANZ as a company. A few years ago, there was a big investigation by the Australian government into the big four banks, and ANZ kind of came out on top of that as the most kind of honest response, the most open remediation technique, and how they were going to fix the problems that had occurred as a result of their actions. So for me, the rapport was quite strong with ANZ. I wasn't actually an existing customer. They were a respected business and I respected them. And then when I did some digging into it, their grad program had so many facets and opportunities that I could follow up. I'm a technology graduate, and so there was a lot of opportunity from them to grow in that space. And there was a lot of kind of different areas that I was interested in and that they could facilitate. And so in my experience so far, that's been pretty factual. I've had a lot of opportunity.
Can you give me a high-level walkthrough of the application process to the grad program at ANZ?
So the process of applying for the ANZ Grad Program, it kind of starts at the job board. So you're going through and you find the ANZ Grad Program and you submit your application. And one of the biggest kind of things that I noticed, and it was quite refreshing actually, was that they didn't take resumes and they didn't take cover letters. That's kind of the traditional means by which employers get a feel for you. You apply and you answer the questions, and it helps them build their own personal picture of you. So that kind of levels the playing field for a lot of people. I think someone who might not have a very strong resume or like visually appealing resume, they still get that chance. They still get a chance to answer these questions honestly, and it helps them build a more full picture of you. And then after that, you complete the psychometric testing, which is pretty standard. There is a customized kind of ANZ package, but it's pretty similar to what a lot of other employers offer. And then once you're successful from that, you will complete an interview. And the interviewers are generally people who match with your skill set. So they're the people who could be your managers or your teammates in the future if you are successful during your application. And then after that application process, it's within about 3 or 4 days, you will find out whether or not you were successful.
So Luke, what was the hardest part of the application process to the grad program at ANZ?
So I think the hardest part of the application process probably would have been the interview. I mean, I'm quite a laid back person, but it drove me to kind of look introspectively. That they gave us some questions and they weren't kind of very standard questions from what you might have seen from other employers. They're very much asking you to find how you could fit in the business or how willing you would be to fit in the business. So ANZ's very focused on a culture of learning and always growing. I think the hardest thing for me was maybe identifying my weak points that I could work with ANZ during the grad program to kind of excel and get rid of those weak points and continue my professional journey of learning.
So what do you think was the trickiest interview question that you got asked during the grad application process to ANZ?
So I think the trickiest question would have been one when it speaks about a team, a time when you were in a team where you may not have got along with the rest of the team or you might have come to a disagreement. I am often not a very confrontational person, so I don't come to these kind of events very often. But obviously, once you move into a work environment, you're going to run into those a lot more often. There's a lot more people who could potentially, you could rub the wrong way. And I think also there's a lot more on the line than what you might have previously experienced in university or in like a part-time job during uni or school. So I took the approach of the way the question was asked makes you jump to the conclusion of that it was actually like a really bad disagreement. But I took the approach of it like a very minor disagreement because these are still actions that shape the final output. So I took the approach of thinking about a time when it might not have been a actual disagreement. It was a time when negotiation was required to reach that kind of endpoint. And I think that kind of let me frame it in a way that kind of showed the skills that they were looking for without necessarily having that major disagreement happen previously.
What's the number one thing that got you successfully through the grad application process at ANZ?
I think the number one successful factor for me would have been my honesty. I was honest with kind of places that I didn't feel like I had the strongest skill set. And for example, I expressed that I was pretty proficient in JavaScript, but there's still a lot for me to learn. And I think that that's what they appreciated. That's what they're looking for, is that you have that kind of attitude. You want to learn, you want to build your skills. You're not kind of happy with where you are at the moment. You want to use the grad program to excel and learn as much as you can.
After getting hired into ANZ's grad program, what did your first few days, weeks in your onboarding process look like?
The onboarding process was pretty thorough. Obviously, working in a bank, you work with a lot of sensitive stuff. So you've got your police checks, and then you've got a whole lot of sharing all your information as you would with any other employer. After that's all completed, you start so that we have an orientation week. And so just before the orientation week, we started virtually because of COVID. And so my laptop arrived in the mail. I was given some pretty clear instructions to set that up, and we joined our orientation week. And so the orientation week was kind of filled with a lot of different aspects to learn about ANZ and learn about kind of the culture of work. And you log in, you meet the team running the grad program, and then we met with our buddies who were in the grad cohort above us. You then kind of learn about ANZ's values and the kind of behaviors that are expected of you. We had presentations from our respective kind of group heads, whether that be institutional banking or technology, for example, and that was kind of in our separate divisions. And then we came together, we had a presentation from our CEO, and then we kind of split off into our own divisions for our division-specific onboarding. And then for the weeks after that, you're meeting with your manager, you're meeting your team, and then at the same time, you've got to complete your mandatory training, which is a drag, but everyone has to do it. And so, yeah, that was kind of the first month or so.
Walk me through a day in your life as a graduate at ANZ. What's it look like?
At the moment, I'm in experience design. And so generally the workforce goes from 9 till 5. There are some people who shift that, but generally it's an 8-hour day for everyone. So we work in a hybrid way. And so whether or not I need to be in the office or not, I generally come in about 2 days a week, whether or not I need to be. And so I log on, and then I generally get started with my work. And so I'm working on designing the ANZ app at the moment, which is really exciting. And then during the day, I'll have often on meetings, I might chat with a few of the other grads. It's pretty lighthearted. And then at lunch, if I'm in the office, I'll go out and explore Melbourne and find a bite to eat. And then if I'm at home, I'll generally eat leftovers from the night before. And then in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a catch up, which is pretty chill with the rest of the design chapter, which is really nice to kind of catch up, see what everyone's working on, but it's very much a social occasion, which is nice. And in the afternoon, we have a big workforce in India. So a lot of the time meetings will be in the afternoon so we can catch up with them because that's as they're coming online. And then I'll be logging off about 5:30, depending on my workload for that day.
What is the coolest project you've gotten to work on so far as a graduate at ANZ?
It's a good question. Well, it's actually outside of my normal kind of work commitments. We have the graduate social committee. And so that's been a really fun project, working with a bunch of other grads to create events Australia-wide, as well as actually internationally, to kind of connect our grads from around the world and interstate as well. Obviously, our biggest cohort is in Australia, but that doesn't stop us from reaching outside. We have initiatives like Coffee Roulette, randomly matched with a grad in either India, Australia, or New Zealand, and you'll never be matched with the same person twice. And so that kind of encourages you to reach out to that person, learn more about what they do, and kind of just build your networks. And then probably the single coolest project that I've worked on was the graduate ball. So that kind of brought in us grads from around Australia. We all kind of dressed up and had a really fun night, and that was completely funded and planned by the graduates. So that was really fun.
What type of career opportunities can a grad role at ANZ lead to?
So I think the ANZ graduates are afforded a really good opportunity in the fact that at the end of the program, there's a guaranteed employment offer. It is a 3 rotation program, 6 months each, and you will have the chance to go back to any 3 of those teams if you've enjoyed your experience and if they believe that they can bring you on as a full-time employee, then you can have those negotiations and kind of land where you want to be. You've spent 18 months going through the program and you've found kind of where you want to be, whether or not you've actually had a rotation through there. It doesn't really matter. You can kind of end up wherever you want in the bank. It's just kind of that internal move. So it's quite simple and you can have those negotiations. And the grad team is super supportive of everyone going through that process. And so they'll give you the tools and the kind of necessary means to have those negotiations, have those chats. They'll set you up with the right people if you need to make more connections. And so I think that's a really good opportunity for everyone.
And what kind of learning and development opportunities do you get access to as a grad at ANZ?
There's a lot of learning experiences to be had at ANZ. There's entire squads developed to kind of provide us with these opportunities to learn. There's, in tech alone, there is a festival called Growchella, which is a play on words for Coachella. So it's a learning festival. During that, there's bumper to bumper, Monday to Friday, from 9 a.m. Monday until 5 p.m. on Friday. There is events to be had. There's all sorts sorts of kind of learnings about all sorts of things, like how to integrate human-centered design into your team, even if you may not think that it is something that's important in your team. Something as simple as a kind of front door that people might see, how to make that more appealing and get your message across, and all the way until just how to build your networks and stuff like that. So there's so much opportunity, and it is a tech-centric event, but those events are open to everyone at ANZ, and they always are. So yeah, there is a lot of learning and growth to be had. It's gone international. It's in India and the Philippines now, which is really cool.
Do you use any type of remote work or work from home or hybrid model as a grad at ANZ?
Yeah, there's a huge focus on hybrid work. There is an expectation that you'll spend about 50% of your time in the office over a 2-week period. So that's about 5 days out of every 10 days you'll be in the office. And lots of teams will facilitate that differently. So most teams will have 1 or 2 anchor days in the office where everyone should be coming in, but it's very flexible. There's not going to be any kind of discipline come out of that. It's suggested, and it's nice to see everyone, I think. And it's nice to see the office bustling with lots of people. It's quite a big office, so when it's empty, it's actually very empty. And then the hybrid environment is really good. We're provided with incentives to buy ergonomic chairs and monitors, and there's a whole lot of training around that as well, how to set up your workspace effectively as possible. And yeah, there's been lots of opportunities where I think previously, before hybrid was a big thing, there's been lots of times when I've been afforded opportunities that I might not have been. So it's been really good.
What is your best piece of advice for other students and grads wanting to apply to the grad program at ANZ to really nail it?
I think my best piece of advice is just to be honest with yourself and to be honest with your application and your interviewers. I think that's a huge thing. Like, a lot of the time you may oversell your skills, and that's fine to an extent, I think. And I think that's the art of getting the job. But don't oversell yourself, but also don't sell yourself short. You want to kind of find that good mix of like your picture, the picture that is you. It might be a resume on paper form, but you need to have that kind of visual map of yourself and how do you represent yourself. Honesty is a huge thing. Interviewers know when you may or may not know what you're talking about, and even if they may not vocalize that. So I think, yeah, the huge thing is honesty.
What is the coolest fringe benefit that you get being a grad at ANZ?
It's a toss-up between two. So obviously ANZ is a really big institutional bank. So we have a lot of big customers from Qantas, like the airline. We have a lot of car rental companies. We have a lot of hotels. So just in the realm of travel, that's a lot afforded to you. We've got discounts to join frequent flyers clubs as well as to accommodation. And there's also a pretty significant discount on like rental cars. So if you want to go on holidays, there's a lot to kind of offer from that. So I've really enjoyed kind of exploring that and looking through that. And then also, obviously, as a bank, there is a lot of financial kind of help. So you get discounts on your home loan rates. There is also discounts on credit cards, like your yearly fees. And there's also no fees on accounts. So they're really cool benefits that kind of come into play more often than you'd think.
What's the number one reason you would encourage other students and grads to apply to the grad program at ANZ?
I think the number one reason is kind of the community that is ANZ. Everyone's super friendly. Everyone's always down for a chat. Like, as a grad, you're kind of offered so many opportunities to network and build your relationship with people in the bank. Like, you see a lot of publicity about like the culture at, say, a company like Google. But I think ANZ is a really good, it's a very quiet achiever in that aspect. It's done really well at building such a great culture around it, and people want to stay at ANZ and people want to learn and grow and build themselves through their career. And there's so many opportunities to learn from formal means, like you've got courses and learnings to be had, but then there's also so much to learn from the people that have been here for 30, 40 years, as well as people who have just come from another company but may have brought a new approach and that you can learn about, and you can kind of mold your career and your kind of skills around the people around you.